Hello, all. Thank you very much for joining us. With me today is Deepa. Hey, Deepa, thank you for joining me. Deepa is the founder of Pensaar Designs. Pensaar Design is basically in the business of creating experiences. So, Deepa, can you just give us a quick intro about Pensaar Designs and a quick intro about yourself?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me, Nikhil. My name is Deepa Bachu, and speaking a little bit about me, I've spent my entire life creating products. I've been more in the technology world, been an engineer, a designer, product manager, focused on innovation. And in the last few years of my life, I've had the great opportunity of creating like innovative solutions using this methodology called design thinking. And, that's what Pensar is all about. Our mindset, our approach is all about understanding customers, whoever your customers might be, and creating awesome experiences for them by pushing the boundaries on what's possible, by having the humility to test ideas with real customer behavior versus doing surveys, and ultimately creating solutions that people can't imagine their lives without. And these, when I say solution, I'm talking about everything from a mobile app to a product you might consume to a process that you might go through. Design is everywhere and needs to be everywhere in people's lives. So that's what
Absolutely.
Pensar Design does. We're a design studio that focuses on creating those awesome experiences for our clients' customers.
Wow, superb. I mean, when you break it down, you're essentially trying to design the way someone is going to experience their lives, basically.
I don't know about their lives because I wish we had control over that. But in terms of their interactions, in terms of what they interact with and how they interact with those things, whether it's, a conversation that we're having now, we're using technology to connect, or it's, a physical product that you use. We really focus on designing anything so that we can create great experiences. Now, given that I have a technology background, a lot of our work tends to be in tech. So we create a lot of applications. We help our clients create a lot of applications and design those experiences. But by first understanding customers and then knowing what their needs are, and then going about solving them.
Of all the people I've interviewed, you have had one of the most comprehensive careers. Can you just take us through your journey and how you got to Pensar Designs?
Yeah,
Because
of
you have
course.
an
I'd love
incredible
to.
career. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I started off as an engineer. I loved computer science, and so I focused on. I actually started building operating systems. I wrote operating system code, and I thought that was great. It was very, very creative, and I remember. In those days, I'm really dating myself now, but in those days, you install the software and all the engineers' names, almost like film credits, would scroll through. And I remember feeling that, a real sense of pride that I had a part to do in, or I played a big part in the operating system. And it also told me an early lesson in life to say that, you want to be doing things that you're proud of and proud enough to put your name against it. As an engineer, I loved sort of coding, but then I also thought about who's using the code that I write. And that really began my career as a designer, as a researcher, to try to understand, what are people trying to accomplish? When you buy a certain product or an item, you're looking to accomplish something. And what is that thing that you're trying to accomplish? Understanding that, and then building those experiences, building that into the solution or the product that you consume. Started off as an engineer, made my way through design. I worked for large companies like HP, Merrill Lynch, and then did my startup. Not my startup, but I worked at a startup where I did everything from, code to go do professional services. And this was all in the US, my experiences. And after that, joined a company called Intuit, which was amazing. It set me for what I wanted to be. A real focus, being a technology company, really focused on who's your customer and how can you improve their lives using technology. Through that
Mm-hmm.
experience, I worked for almost 14 years in that company, playing different roles. Along the way, I actually had this amazing opportunity to create solutions for farmers in India, helping them get a better
Oh,
price for their product. And that work is much celebrated. It's a Harvard Business case study that's still
okay.
taught today. And I realized that the thing that I do naturally, or that many people at Intuit were taught to do naturally, as in understand customers and then create those amazing experiences and be thoughtful about measuring the improvement you're making in the customer's life. That's
Mm-hmm.
really what design thinking is all about, and such few people actually know it and practice it.
Yep.
And that was really the seed for Pensar. At this point, I was already mentoring a lot of startups, and they were sucking it up, and they were like, "Wow, this is amazing." And so I thought I could start a company that focused on helping and mentoring startups. But
Mm-hmm.
as I think hindsight's 2020, but at that point, I thought I could make a business out of it. And startups, loved the free advice, but weren't willing to pay for it. And so we had to pivot, right? We had to pivot, and we looked at, well, who else can we help? And we started helping larger companies that can in fact pay us. And we've made a successful business out of it. It's going to be 5 years this November. We continue
Wow.
to teach because we love the everyone at Intuit, my entire team loves to teach because it keeps us grounded. It When you teach, you learn. So we do a lot of teaching
Mm-hmm.
engagements. We've got some of our courses on Udemy. We from time to time we do open sessions, and we do one every year at IIM Bangalore. We do a design thinking summit. But we also
Mm-hmm.
mentor and do a lot of pro bono work with startups. So yeah, sort of like a modern day Robin Hood, I guess. Take from large companies and do pro bono work
Due to the small
with
ones.
startups. And it's been a riot. The variety that we have the opportunity to work with, the variety of companies, and the variety of projects.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
I mean, I urge you, all our listeners, to check out pensaardesign.com. Just look at the portfolio of their customers. It'll just blow your mind. You'll be like, wow.
thank you, thank you.
I actually wanted to ask you another question regarding your career. You
Yeah.
have written back in 1998 that you were a UI designer. I honestly want to know, did UI design exist at that time?
Exist. Yeah. Well, you've certainly done your research, Nikhil. And yes, I was a designer in 1998. And first of all, not fair,
Wow.
you're completely dating me. But yes, it did exist. It was in the early days, but in those days, it was called human factors because you wanted to
Oh,
understand how humans interacted with computers.
okay.
It was a very up and coming field, but few people were aware of it even as a career option. Like I said, I was one of the few lucky folks that had the curiosity to understand the code that I'm writing, the operating system, the utilities for people to remote install. Is it working for systems administrators? And that's when a human factors person in our office was like, "What? An engineer really wants to know who's using their product?" And he took me under his wing and
Okay.
taught me everything I know about understanding human behavior, what design is all about. So yeah, I made that switch fairly quickly to focus on designing experiences through technology. And yes, and that's why you see in '98 that I was a UI
Wow,
designer.
that's
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. You're talking about 22 plus years of experience in design. I mean, just like
yeah.
I'll honestly tell you, right? I did not even think that back then that job designation even existed. So I was like, wow.
It did. It
So
did.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just to get some perspective, like, I would say you would be in like the first 1,000 UI designers of the world, if I had to
I
guess.
don't know. I don't think. I'm not sure. Maybe the first 5,000 or the 10,000, but few and far between. I would say for sure.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
till you asked the question, I didn't even think about it that way. Very few people, yes. But I don't know
So
if I can put a number to it.
tell me this. Right now, we have some incredible software like Adobe, uh, I mean, Sketch, and all these amazing software to help you design UI, Figma, and all that. What did you
Yeah.
do your designs on back then?
Yeah. We used Photoshop, right? Photoshop existed then.
Okay,
And that was, Illustrator, I think, came much later, but Photoshop,
mhm,
Adobe Photoshop existed.
okay,
But I will tell you this, there's nothing like your good old paper and pen to think about experiences.
absolutely.
Wireframing, as it is called, you don't actually need any software for that.
Hmm.
You can, all you need is a pencil and a paper, and your handy dandy post-its. There's a lot
Hmm.
you can do with it in terms of creating an experience. And yes, Photoshop did exist then.
So, for those of you who are listening who don't know about Intuit, it is basically company for anyone who has done anything related to finance in the US. Probably lots of parts of the world has come across Intuit's products. So, can you tell us your journey through Intuit and which? I mean, if you're allowed to disclose which sort of products you worked on, would you which you put your hands on? Because Intuit has some incredible products.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I mean, I think, plus one on everything you said about Intuit. I think it's an amazing company. I actually started working in the US. I started working on Quicken, which has
Oh.
then been, that was the flagship product of
Hmm.
Intuit. I used to manage design for Quicken. And then I
Okay.
moved over to QuickBooks,
Hmm.
focused on global products for Intuit all along the accounting side. I didn't have the
Hmm.
opportunity to work on TurboTax, but I've worked on QuickBooks and Quicken. And like I
Okay.
mentioned, I had again the pleasure of working on, you know, about 10 to 12 startup ideas within Intuit
Wow.
itself. Yeah, some of them made it, and some of them, of course, through the natural process of innovation, didn't make it.
Hmm.
One of which was Fussell, which I mentioned earlier, is documented in a Harvard Business Case. But the others too had a lot of promise, and we saw good end, and several of them actually started us thinking down different paths for Intuit as well. So, Intuit's also the kind of company that encourages what they used to call intrapreneurship, which is entrepreneurship within a company. And it's that thinking, it's that mindset of what is the best solution for my customer and how can I really improve my customer's life. And not just pretty pictures. A lot of folks think design is about only visuals, right? How seamless something looks. But to begin with, it's what problem does it solve and how well does it solve that problem? And
Absolutely.
then you layer on usability and then finally delight, that unexpected delight. So, yeah, I mean, I've had the pleasure of working through Quicken as well as the various flavors of QuickBooks and new to the world ideas, all added to
Superb.
it.
So this is my last question related to your career. What would you consider your biggest roadblocks in your career till date?
Just going to think about it because I don't want to give an obvious answer. I think the roadblocks are all ones that you put for yourself, really. I think I'm someone who has always incorporated a lot of reflection
Hmm.
in my career, in my decision. I think I've been lucky enough to have great mentors that have helped me identify what my strengths are and where my areas of improvement are. And rather than focus on my areas of improvement, I've focused on my strengths and helping my
Okay.
strengths get better and get my areas of opportunity to an okay level. And so I would say, barriers as such in my career are all things that I might have put in my head for myself about things that I can't do.
Okay.
Again, I've been fortunate to work in environments where if I believed in myself, there's enough people around me that have given me the opportunity.
Hmm.
I will also say that being a woman in tech is, you're a minority.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
it's unfortunate, but a real truth that as you go up in the corporate ladder, you're in conference rooms with hardly any women. And I, for the longest time, thought that's the way it's going to be. To figure out what to talk about sports and politics, two topics that I don't have a lot of interest in, but were required to socialize with my male counterparts.
So I guess you
You
learned
know,
about basketball and American football.
hardly, just barely. Basketball, I used to play as a kid, so, that was
Okay.
easy.
Okay.
But yeah, it was, I think, for a woman of color, ethnicity, in tech, as wonderful as the companies I've worked in have been, you're almost always a minority.
Correct.
And so you're constantly having to adjust to your environment and be less of who you are. And I think
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along the line, the Intuit CEO would say you have to bring your whole self to work. And I didn't quite understand what he was talking about till one day it struck me that, I don't have to hide behind who I am. I need to celebrate who I am. And that is being an Indian woman working, outside of India or in India, and really celebrating that versus trying to hide that. And again, know that I bring unique perspectives because of my foundational learning, because of my culture, because of who I am, and really sort of explore that and exploit your. And that's when I realized that it's my responsibility as one of the fewer sort of leaders who are women to
Mm-hmm.
promote more women, to sponsor women, deserving women, right? Not at the cost of men, but to
Mm-hmm.
promote and sponsor women, and make the place, I mean, leave the place better than it was when I came there,
Mm-hmm.
and so that diversity and inclusion has always been something that I focus on, whether in my previous companies or now at Pensar. It's really important to have not only diverse perspectives, but an inclusive one where those diverse perspectives can be heard. And so, what's wonderful at Pensar is that no two of us have the same background. We all come in from have different perspectives, and I pride ourselves in having an inclusive environment where every voice can be heard. It doesn't matter how much experience you have or what background you have, your views are important. And being that we're in that innovative space, it is
Mm-hmm.
important to listen to different perspectives, because if you listen to homogenous
For you, it's sort
perspectives,
of a
you
job
don't get
requirement,
information.
right?
Exactly, exactly. But I think it is for everybody, because no one
Mm-hmm.
likes to just sort of grind the wheel and do the next thing the same way. And so it's really important. A lot of people talk about diversity, and diversity is important, but it can never thrive without having an inclusive environment, right? Every voice gets heard, in equal weightage. And that's really what inclusion is all about.
Absolutely. So you talked about Pensar Designs and how it was just a gradual progression of you be interacting with a lot of startups and all that. So in Pensar Designs, how did you acquire your first customer? And other, I'd like to ask, how did you acquire your first enterprise customer, if that's the
Yeah,
right word?
yeah,
Can you take us through that journey? Because normally speaking, right, till you get your first customer, it's just an idea.
absolutely. You
So
got
the
it,
the
man.
journey,
You got it.
the journey,
Yeah.
the journey to the first
No.
customer is extremely. That's what makes
Mm.
the business, right? So how was your journey to your first customer?
Yeah. So first paid customer, right? A paying
Yeah, yeah,
customer,
yeah.
of
Of
course.
course, paid customer.
Yeah, paid customer is really important. So
Yeah.
our very first customer
Mm-hmm.
was someone that I, respected a lot. And I had the conversation and said, hey, this is what I want to be doing. Does this sound like a good idea? What problem can I help you solve? And apply design thinking. And they were like, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And I said, let's put some money on the table, because more than wanting that money, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to sort of prove to myself that it was, a business worth paying for, that,
Mm-hmm.
it was valuable enough that someone would part with money. First check was affirmation that we're heading in the right direction. Not that we were already on our path, but that we were heading in the right direction. And I
Correct.
would say the first customer to get involved talking to, 10 people that all thought it was a great idea, but one person valuing it enough to part with that pay, the check. And the second customer as well was just as important, to say, hey, this is not a one trick pony, that
Mm-hmm.
this is a way that we can continue to grow, right? So you start with unit of one, what we call succession metrics, right? You start with a unit of one. You say, hey, did it work? What were the benefits? Are they going to recommend you? And you focus all on what we call love metrics. What do you really like? It's a lot of emotion, it's a lot of connect with your first customer. Then you want to make sure that, what? It's not n equals one now. Can I
Correct.
scale those metrics?
Mm-hmm.
And can I get my second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth customer? That's
Correct.
when you know and you start to get more confidence. You start to fine tune what you do, how you do it. And once you have that confidence within a cohort of
Mm-hmm.
customers, that's when you truly scale. So, we were fortunate that there were a few customers that were willing to pay for our services in those early days.
Mm-hmm.
And, our investment as consultants are basically salaries of people. And
Exactly.
if we did some things that were really right, we're bootstrapped, we're self-funded initially.
Mm-hmm.
And, month two, we were profitable. And we were like, wow, this is something. We had our own metrics. We had the love metrics, we had the financial metrics, proved out in the, n equals one customer, proved out in the n equals a cohort. And then there was no stopping us. We knew there was,
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
problem that we were solving, and
Correct.
we had to figure out ways to scale it.
So this leads very nicely to my next question, which is you are in the business of trying to sell to your customer that hey, I can help you build a better experience for your customers, right?
Right, right.
In a country like India, how do you convince someone to do that? Like you're basically, and of course, there's ways of putting this, but basically at its core, you're telling them what you're doing is not the best way to do it. I can do it better, or I can show you to do it better. How do you even convince someone in a country like India for that conversation?
Yeah, well, a few things, right? So first of all, Nikhil, we have Indian clients, but we also have global clients, right?
Of course.
And so,
That's going to be my next question, but I want to ask for Indian customers. How did you convince them?
sure, sure. So, the important thing is that anyone that's being honest with themselves, anyone, any company,
Hmm.
knows that they can do better for their customers. Just simply that, right?
Hmm.
Now, there have been some companies who believe that they have all the help they need, and that's great. Those are not the doors we go knocking on. And a lot of our work comes to us versus, I use the word go knocking on, but luckily for us, we have no salespeople in the organization.
Hmm.
Knock on wood, we've been really fortunate that, the inquiries come inbound, so we don't have to, just go knocking on doors to get business.
Hmm.
So already it's a little bit primed for us in that people understand that there's something they could do differently. And then it becomes our responsibility to show them the cases that we have improved, our sort of track record of past clients who we've helped create a better experience for. But my
Hmm.
starting line is never, I can create better experiences for customers. My starting line usually is, Nikhil, I can help you understand your customers better.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I think that's different, right? So I'm not just
Hmm.
saying I'll create better experiences because I know more. I'm saying I'll help you understand your customers. And
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons, Pensar has been as successful as we have is that um, we always co-create with our clients. We don't
Okay.
say, hey, we'll do it for you and we're not going to tell you how it's done. We teach as we work with companies. And for us, the exit criteria is that our clients don't need us anymore because we've
Mm-hmm.
imparted that knowledge, we've imparted the techniques of learning how to understand your customers.
Mm-hmm.
Having that right mindset, so you in fact know that you have to watch and observe your customers and you can't just send a survey, or you can't pretend like you know your customers, because customers needs are evolving, they're changing, and you have to stay in touch with them all the time. So that customer centricity, or what we call customer obsession, is what's important. So what we do is we enable them to understand their customers better by doing it for them and then teaching them how to do it. And so it's the co-creation that's different. So we bring our expertise to the table, but we share rather generously,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're working with the company versus for the company.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one of the reasons why you've been successful. Oh, moving on to my next question. Indian companies don't have, or at least the perception is that we're not that great with design and experience. So, how did you manage to convince global clients that, hey, we really have something special? Because that was also mind boggling to me going through some of the customers which you have, that being an Indian company, you were able to convince someone that design thinking is something which we do really well. And
Yeah.
you can correct me if I'm wrong with the stereotype which we have, that at least in my mind, I rarely feel that I get a great design experience from an Indian company.
I don't know that I would agree with that. I think
Okay.
there are a lot of Indian companies that provide great experiences and value
Mm-hmm.
the customer's experience. Now, again, if you're just talking about visuals, it's a whole different topic. But if you think about experiences itself, um, in the last 5 years, there's so many experiences as a person living in India that have improved exponentially. You can get
Okay.
what you want delivered to your doorstep through various e-commerce platforms, whether it's a product you want to buy, or if it's food, or if it's something you want delivered, or if you want
Mm-hmm.
yourself delivered somewhere, right?
Yeah.
There's without naming any companies, you know who I'm talking about. And I think
Of
that
course.
Indian companies don't have a choice but to think
Mm-hmm.
about that experience and to understand where customers are coming from. So whether if it's a large food company, or a luxury hotel brand, or an e-commerce company, customer service, experience, technology, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're all starting to blend in a really nice way, where there are no boundaries of where technology stops and in-person experiences take on, or your experience in the product doesn't end there. It may have to connect how you are aware of the product, or how you, from cradle to grave, as they say, your relationship with the company and the brand. Um, a lot of Indian companies really value that, whether it's large conglomerates. And you'll see on our website that we've got like the large conglomerates, Indian conglomerates, as well as the small startups. And so I think I'm really encouraged by standing that, we need to understand our customers more deeply. And we need to have that understanding in-house in our employees. Like, we need to
Mm-hmm.
build these skills. Customer obsession is important. Satya Nadella has really popularized the customer obsession. And look what Microsoft's done, for such a large
Oh
giant
yeah,
to be able to
absolutely.
take the kind of turn they have. And, it starts with companies focusing on employees caring about it. It doesn't matter if you're an engineer, a finance person, or a customer service rep. You need to understand your customer because you're making decisions about their experience. The second comment you made was that, do we have enough designers in India? And would global companies come to India for design expertise? And I think our track record has proven that they will and that they have. I can't speak to global perceptions, but you made the comment that in 1998 I had UI designer, and there weren't many
Yeah,
UI
yeah, yeah.
designers in the world then. It is a field that was rather late blooming, but we do have schools in India now where design is being taught and taught really, really well. And so it was only a matter of time where we started having designers that are worth their experience and their expertise. And so the design teams are growing in every multinational here in India, as well as agencies like us. And the work that we got is through our network, our credibility, and customers telling other customers about us. And
So have you faced that stereotype that okay, you're an Indian company, maybe your designs are not that great or whatever it is, or this is just something in my head? I'll give you an example, right?
yeah,
We have Indian banks. Banking is one of the most important sector in India, and
yeah,
every single bank website is just, for the lack of better word, trash. I
yeah.
mean, I'm confused as to where do I go check what's happening with my account. You open that website and you get a, oh God, I have to open this website. It's a stressful experience. And banks are so huge in India. They're like one of the most profitable businesses in India. Not just that, apart from a few startups which have tried to really innovate in that space, it's a stressful experience going to banks. I mean, government is a whole other thing, but when you think about that and you think that okay, probably there is a UI designer sitting there, or recently you had a lot of these very large Indian companies cloning apps from different countries. Why? I mean, there is no lack of funding there. There is no lack of, you really start thinking that okay, they're just trying to cut corners basically. And I honestly get that feeling that a lot of Indian businesses are like that, like they do not want to make that additional investment in design and that sort of
Yeah,
thing. So is my
absolutely.
that's how I have developed this perception. It's not at all based on me having done market research and all those things. It's just
Yeah,
like a customer perspective. So I'm asking you, have you had that stereotype ever, from a global company?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I would say, having worked both in the US and in India, Nikhil,
Hmm.
even in the US, there's several companies where you have to still evangelize, provide ROI every time you need designers, right? When you need engineers or something else, it's like, oh, yeah, of course. But so, you have to, being a designer, you have to evangelize what you do. You have to demystify what you do. You don't have to do it in more recognized and understood professions. But it becomes the responsibility of us. And I don't know how to work without evangelizing design, without demystifying what design is. And that ROI is important and necessary. And it was important even when I was in the US, about 10 years ago, to provide that justification and to really think about how you design the design organization itself and companies, right? Um, and I would say, even as far as education and design as a career, we probably a little, we started a little later than, for example, the US in India. So those perceptions do exist. There are many clients that come to us, Nikhil, and say, hey, can you just make this pretty? Because they just want, it's just like make it better, like just paint it better. And we very, very respectfully refuse to do work like that because there's just so much it's hogwash, right? If
Correct.
the parts are not well functioning, it doesn't matter how pretty it looks. It just doesn't matter how pretty it looks, right? If it's not
Absolutely. Yeah.
doing the job that it's supposed to do. So I think your perceptions aren't that I want to burst. It's bang on. But the kind of work that we do, luckily, isn't just painting, isn't about putting a skin on something to make it look prettier. We're actually working on the guts. We are looking at the experience. We're looking to understand, is there a good problem solution fit even? Is there a problem worth solving? And
Mm-hmm.
then does this solution that we have solve that problem well? And how can it
Mm-hmm.
solve it better? And so this is user experience. It's not just visual design. And yes, visual
Absolutely.
design is really important, but you've got to layer it on to the user
Correct.
experience, right? So the work that we do is not pixel pushing or painting. It starts with understanding customers, then creating
Mm-hmm.
that experience, and then layering on the visual in that sort of order. Because it doesn't matter how intuitive your product is if it doesn't do the job you want it to do.
That's a very nice way of putting it. So, moving on to my next question, some serious business questions. So, how does your business model work? How do you charge your customers? How do they pay you? Like, can you? I mean, it's a
Yeah, of
consulting company, of course, but can you just demystify it
course.
for our
Yeah,
listeners?
absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think a couple of choices that we made earlier on, Nikhil, have proved to be helpful for us. So
Okay.
one thing we've done is we've stayed boutique. And by that, I
Okay.
mean, we're anywhere between 15 to 20 people. And
Mm-hmm.
we very aggressively work with freelancers
Okay.
on an as needed basis. And we have this really nice group of freelancers that we know how they work, they know how we work. We've worked with them before, and a lot of credibility and everything. Um, so staying small has helped us be thoughtful and choiceful about the kind of work that we take on.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, a lot of companies need more just visual work to be done, and there are lots of companies that do that. We don't, and we're
Okay.
happy to recommend. Um, you know, uh, when people come and ask us, we're happy to recommend other companies that do that. So we didn't want to be in that space that's already crowded. Um, we also stay away from body shopping, which is, hey, can you give me two designers to work on this project? And there's nothing wrong with that, except
Mm-hmm.
that's not a model we've chosen to go down, because then
Okay.
the value that we're trying to build is as a studio.
Uh-huh.
Remember, I was mentioning to you that no two of us have the same background. So when we're working on projects, we might be charging for one or two people, but our clients have the benefit of the entire team or the entire studio. Because when we brainstorm for ideas and when we sort of work together and collaborate, it's everyone's ideas that are coming together.
Mm-hmm.
We, of course, play to our positions and to our expertise, but we also invite the benefit of having a studio with diverse perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we don't do the give me two people or kind of projects. Instead, we focus on deliverables. We say, we will help you make a decision on, is this a problem worth solving, by doing research and understanding the depth of the pain. We will say, we will get your solution to fit that problem and really move the needle for customers well. So we
Mm-hmm.
help with the solution design itself. And what goes into that solution design is understanding the customers, it's creating the UX, it's doing the visuals, it's bringing that unexpected delight. So customers are like, wow, I want to go back and use this product. And we actively measure, Nikhil. One of the biggest misnomers is that design is all about pretty pictures and it can't be measured. We measure, because if you're improving the customers' lives, they've got to be a way to measure it. So we do a lot of before
Absolutely.
and afters. So, companies are then convinced about the needle that they're moving. So what we do is we stay away from timesheets. We focus on outcomes, and really bring to bear, whether it's 5 people or 10 people that we have to put on the project to get to that outcome, that's on us. But our customers get that best experience and the outcomes, and we collaborate with them to deliver it. And I say product a lot, like we only work on technology, but we recently released a white paper of some of the work that we've done with ITC factories in Bhadrachalam, where
Mm-hmm.
we helped the employees with a safety mindset. We actually
Wow.
did a lot of behavioral economics, and after we understood why people do what they do, and collaborated with them to improve the safety standards and improve the safety mindset of the employees on the factory floor. So, you'll see that the kinds of projects we take on, and we do UI UX as well. We've done work for Flipkart in India. We've done work for McAfee globally. There's a lot of work that we've done from a UI UX standpoint as well. But we also focus on transformative change. And the ITC safety transformation is one of them. With McAfee, we help them with the customer obsession. How do you help employees be more customer obsessed and understand really what matters to customers? So there's a variety of work that we do. We help with you just understanding the customers. We do research. We help you do that. You want us to design the experience, we first understand the customer needs and then design that experience. And while we're doing both these, we're happy to help your employees increase their capability to understand customers and design those great experiences. So that's how we do work and how that's
Wow.
different. So we move away from time cards and such. We instead focus on the outcomes. Now, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that in the background of those outcomes is some calculation of here's how much time it's going to take for us to do it, right? So based on our experience, we know how long it takes to do something, and we calculate that, and that's how we bill our clients.
Superb. So my next question, this is a question which I love asking all entrepreneurs, especially during this time. What do you think is the biggest threat for your business? What is it that keeps you awake at night?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think, recency factor, COVID, right? Where everybody tightened their purse strings. Everybody. Didn't matter if it was a global company or a small local company. We began this year very, very strong with, a few signed POs, for work. And we were like, yes, this is going to be a great year. Our years starts in March. And suddenly people were pulling force majeure or however that's said on us, large companies. And that was like, oh, what's happening, right? Things that you think you can take to the bank are not quite where it is. So I would say one of the biggest threats is because we're consultants, companies felt like, hey, instead of um, hiring Pensaar, we'll do that internally. And so we weren't losing out to other competitors who were undercutting us on price or anything like that. We were losing to companies feeling like they can do it on their own. And that was something I couldn't have imagined, and only time and situation allowed that reflection to understand what was happening. But luckily for us, we were able to get back on our feet fairly quickly. And the economy for the companies we're working with in the sectors that are picking up have been helpful. The other threat I would say, Nikhil, is because what we work on is extremely qualitative. We're doing research, we're trying to understand. We don't have any silver bullets. So companies that come to us expecting that we're going to give them a sure shot solution that will be a runaway success. We don't have the ability to, one, promise that, and two, to deliver that consistently. I mean, there's a worldwide stat of for less than 1% of the world's innovations is successful. So who are we to think that it will be any different? But what design thinking helps is it ups your chances of success. It ups your ability to understand sooner rather than later that you're heading down the wrong path. But it doesn't guarantee success. And so when imagine talking to a customer, Nikhil, and saying, hey, you know what, I think I can help you out with this, but I can't guarantee it. Like there is no guarantee for innovation and no one can give you that guarantee. And I'd be lying if I were to say, hey, I can help you get 10,000 or a million customers on this. I want to, but I can't promise that. But what I can promise is that we will understand your customers better. We will improve your experiences. But I can't provide runaway successes, especially for new to the world products that we're creating. So that tends to be also something that keeps us up at night, right? To look at, my goodness, are we our own competition? Are we, like, should we be thinking about things differently? Um, but yeah, I mean, hopefully that helped and it answered your question.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean that makes a lot of sense. Like being a purely qualitative company, yeah, honestly, even that would keep me up at night.
Yeah, yeah, it
So,
does. It does. But I want to
uh,
say, what keeps us going on the flip side is just the every project is so freaking different. And that
mhm,
is amazing. It's not the tried and tested, it's not rinse and repeat. It's that thrill of identifying something new. It's about getting those insights and really empathizing with your clients' customers. So you're able to connect the dots in interesting ways and get those ahas that were always on the table, right? The dots were always on the table, but you've connected them in interesting and new ways. And that's what keeps it exciting, the newness of it, the difference that no 2 days are similar.
mhm.
There's no rinse and
Makes sense.
repeat. Yeah.
Absolutely. So my next question is related to it flows very nicely to my next question.
Mhm.
When I'm looking to hire an engineer, I can judge his logic. When
Yeah.
I'm looking to hire accountant, I can figure out what his financial knowledge is. How do I hire a designer?
Yeah.
How do I hire a creative person? How do I hire a designer? It's such a subjective matter. How have you
It
built
is.
about how have you gone about building your team?
Yeah. So, we do design exercises.
Okay.
We provide a problem and we
Mhm.
ask people to, you know, work on that problem and take the time they need. Um, and it's not a trick design problem. It's the what we focus on as we hire people is what is their thinking, what is the process that they used,
Mhm.
um, why are they doing what they are doing. So it's not the final solution that's really a winning solution, it's the thinking behind it that goes into it, and as you said, everyone has an opinion on design, like everybody. And what is to say that my opinion is better than yours, right? It doesn't matter what our individual opinions are. It really matters what customers think and how what
Mhm.
customers do with it, right? And you have stats to see that. So our design exercise is a very simple one, but we focus on the thinking, we focus on the process, and we focus on the discussion. So, we play devil's advocate, we give good ideas, we give bad ideas, and we see how they take to it. I remember as a young designer, I put up my work, and people were like, they said nice things for like 2 seconds. And after that, it was all the things that were wrong with it. And these design crits can be very difficult for people to take. And it takes a lot of maturity to know that they're not criticizing me, they're criticizing my design.
Mhm.
And to be able to take that constructive criticism is a key skill and necessary, skill that designers need. So we focus on that discussion. We focus on the thinking. And I think there are two mistakes you can make when you're hiring. One is hire the wrong person. But the bigger mistake, in my opinion, is not hire a great person. Um, and so we try it on for size, if people are willing to work with us and then see them in action.
Superb. I mean, that's a very nice way of putting it. And what about this? I mean, what are the sort of designations which you have in your organization?
Yeah, I'm very agnostic to designations. I tell people you can call yourself whatever you want as far as it doesn't mean something
Spoken like a
specific.
true design studio.
Yeah, I think there's so much. To be honest, I've spent far too much of my life thinking about hierarchy, thinking about levels of leadership, and having worked in both the US and in India, where in India we're a lot more hierarchical as a culture, and we need to see progress. Not so much in the US. I'm not saying it's not there at all, but not so much. We need
Mhm.
that validation in India. So I'm so tired, to be honest, Nikhil, of all of that. That we have a fully flat organization,
Mhm.
completely flat.
Wow.
Everyone reports to me. And given all of my years in corporate, we have goals for everybody. We do reviews twice a year. So we've got all of those models that large companies have taught me to do and have it be beneficial. We have values that we've written up that anyone at Pensar can tell you about. And one of the things that they love the most is that it's freedom with
Mhm.
responsibility. So if I feel like I can do something, it's on me to then, you will get the freedom to try it. But then I have to be accountable for the outcomes as well. So it
Absolutely.
is a company that gives you opportunities to learn. We focus a lot on the learning, and there are so many times as a consultant that you don't know how to do this, but you have the confidence that you can figure it out. Because we're switching industries, we're switching B to B to C, all of those variations, right? And there's not, if you feel we're always out working outside of our comfort zone,
Okay.
and that's a new normal for us. And so we try to find people that really thrive in that, um, being outside your comfort zone. And
That's not for everyone, I guess. I don't think
it's
it's for
not
everyone, even if you're talented.
it's
Yeah.
not absolutely, it's not for everyone. So we've had people that have left us that they were great designers, but just not someone who could work in this environment that I just mentioned to
I
you.
would guess. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so our interview process, we try to understand that as well to the extent we can. But we have a great alumni of Pensar folks as well. We're like a family, very close knit because we're small. And when we were going to the office, which now we're not, we would eat lunch together, open our dabbas, all of us sit and eat together. And that's a big part of our values, to help each other out, and knowing that we are Pensar, every one of us is Pensar, is really important. So yeah, so we have designations. We do have a chief design officer, we used to have a chief strategy officer, we have design leads, we have research leads, but I don't focus on those designations at all.
Okay, fair enough. So, moving on to my next question. This is more into sort of hands-on, where you spend your time on. So, first question is, what are the software tools you use to run your business, run your design studio, run everything else, like manage your projects, etc.
Oh, okay. So, we use a combination of tools, really. Um, I think also, my bad is that I'm not very like stringent on thou shalt use these tools. I think being the kind of company we are, we need to be willing to go with, hey, I want to try this new tool out, go for it, right? Whether it's the collaboration tools that are new. Again, I'm trying to stay away from mentioning particular names, but collaboration tools we've always used, but even more so now because you're virtual, you have to use collaboration
So
tools.
I
Um,
urge you to mention some names because I actually want to
yeah.
give this as recommendations for business now. So collaboration, I'm guessing
Oh, okay.
Slack.
Actually, no. Um,
Oh, okay.
you, yeah. So we use Asana
Oh,
for
okay.
all of our project management.
Okay.
We use Miro, we use Mural for collaboration, as in sort of working on ideas, that kind of collaboration, right? Where you
What's the name of
meet.
the tool? Mural.
Miro,
Mural. No.
Mural is Mural, yes.
Okay. And what was the
And
other one?
Miro,
Miro. Any
Miro,
RO.
Miro, Miro.
Okay. So I've actually never heard of Mural and Miro. So what are these tools?
Yeah, so these are just like whiteboard tools where you
Hmm.
can throw ideas on. They've got endless canvases. You can do flows, you can do post-its. Multiple people are collaborating and putting ideas on at the same time. And that becomes really important, right? Given that we're all sort of virtual and we don't have the physical space of using post-its and such.
Hmm.
Um, we use, like I said, Asana for all of our project management and tracking projects and things like that. And we use the full-on Google Suite for everything else.
Okay.
Whether it's documents or slides. And being a design firm, of course, most of us have Apple products, so we use Keynote a lot. So yeah,
And
the
for the
Google
actual design,
Suite.
of course, I'm guessing Adobe as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Perfect.
all of the
Nice.
design tools. And like I said, we don't
Have a
stick
restriction.
to. Yeah, we
Yep.
don't have a restriction. It's whatever makes sense. But of course, if
Hmm.
everyone's using a different tool, it would be really unproductive. So,
Yeah. Of course. You do have a
you know,
discussion, but there's no limitation or anything like that.
correct. So when we begin a project, we say, hey, what are the tools we want to use? What are ones we want to try? And whether it's InVision or Sketch or Adobe XD, whatever we need is what because tools just enable you.
What about internal communication?
A lot of in-person communication that we do.
So you don't use Slack
And
or any tool like Slack, like
we
Teams or
don't
Slack?
use Slack. We don't
Wow.
use Slack. We use we're pretty organized on our Google Drive. So all of our documents are in project folders there. So Slack does two things, right? One, it helps you create a repository, and then of course there's the communication. So WhatsApp is the de facto communication mechanism, and of course there's in person and email, but we have
Mhm.
all of our files that we have on our drive,
The
on the
Google
Google
Doc
Drive.
itself becomes a very important collaboration tool and communication
Yeah,
tool for you guys. Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Makes
So,
sense.
like we collaborate on our Google Docs, on our Google Slides. I mean, Google Slides we don't use so much because we use Keynote. Keynote has the collab feature, so we're
Yep.
collaborating on Keynote. So yeah, those are
Great.
the tools we use, but no Slack. Yeah, it just hasn't worked for us.
Yeah. It's not it's not for everyone again. Uh,
Yeah.
moving on to my next question. So this is something about you. So how is your daily routine? What do you spend a lot of your time on? What sort of work do you end up prioritizing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. I'm very fortunate, Nikhil, that I've got an amazing team,
Okay.
that can do job without me. They really can. And I'm extremely fortunate to have a team that is so passionate, dedicated, and talented all the same. Um, and so my time is not needed on projects, but that's where I like to spend my time. So I take on projects and I will work with the team just like everybody else. Whether it's doing customer research or coming up with insights. And coming up with insights is my strength. So I like to play to my strengths and help the teams out there. So I do spend a lot of time on project work itself, and I love doing it. And I think I'm being helpful. I hope I'm being helpful. The other place that I do spend my time is, of course, in having early conversations for business. And I thought that would be the part of the job that I would dislike the most. Like I was like, I'm
Hmm.
not a salesperson, and I would dislike that. But I'll tell you that that's been an amazing, amazing activity for me and a lot of self growth where,
Hmm.
I thought it would be something I wouldn't be good at, but I'm
Hmm.
reasonably good at that.
Hmm.
And I think it's taught me a lot of humility, Nikhil. It
Yeah.
really has.
Sales,
you
Sales
know.
roles are like that. I mean,
Absolutely. And,
yep.
having my background has all been in corporate. So,
Mhm.
you get to a certain level of position and your credibility walks through the door way before you walk through the door, right? And have that turned on you where I still remember to today, in the early days, if I may tell you a story, I was, I think I'm this big design thinking expert and innovation expert. I've done it for as many years as I have. And I go to a meeting, and there's this individual that clearly is like young, right? Maybe 1 or 2 years out of college, and is
Okay.
quizzing me on design thinking and on innovation and how do you do customer research and what is important there. I
Hmm.
have to tell you, Nikhil, it took every ounce of self-control to keep from lunging across the table, shaking the guy up to say, "Do you even know who I am and the kind of experience I've had in this field?" But I didn't do that. I
I was
sat
the
there.
freaking very early UI designer. Do you understand? Oh my God. Wow. That must have
Yeah,
been an incredible experience.
amazing. When I was
Wow.
going through it, I was like, what the, but after that, I walked out saying, I'm a better human being for this. I'm a lot more humble. And every conversation has been like that since, Nikhil, where I have to prove the myself, my team, the ability of my company all over again, every
Hmm.
single time. Um, and I think that's made me more grounded and well-rounded as a person. And I
Absolutely.
do enjoy that. I do enjoy that.
Not
You
allowed
too,
you to
like
have a crazy ego.
completely. You have to check that out at the door.
Yep.
So it's been a very humbling experience. And I honestly, before this, I would say, oh, I don't have an ego about myself at all. But that conversation definitely put me in check. And every conversation since.
Wow. Wow. I can completely, I can picture this conversation, and I have no idea the kind of micro expressions you would have had to control during that conversation.
A lot of them. I just have, people that know me know that whatever I'm thinking is right on my face, like right on
Wow.
my face. So,
Okay.
yeah, a lot of self control, but more than self control, a lot of humility, I would say.
Absolutely. Wow. So, moving on to my next question. So, this was a question which I particularly wanted to ask you. And I mean, if you're okay with naming some experiences which, as a consumer, you have experienced, which you've really enjoyed. You're like, someone has really put their brain or thought into this, where you did not expect it to be that good. Can you just take us through some of these experiences? Maybe one or two
Uh,
examples where you really were impressed with, whoever had put that together, and you did not expect it to be that good.
yeah. I mean, there are a lot of experiences around me that I'm sort of quite enthralled by, right?
Mhm.
But I won't say it's the little experiences, it's the small ones that, make me just want to stop and go, wow, that was quite incredible. Um,
So, give me an example.
sure. I'm again trying to stay away from naming companies. Nikhil.
Uh,
Um,
it's your call. Who does this as a career? What is an experience they would enjoy?
Yeah, I honestly, there are, as a consumer, I enjoy um, lots of experiences, I would say. Um, you know, right from, if I look at interactions, I think the rubber band for refresh, um, it's an amazing interaction element, right? If you think about it, it's the endless scroll and the rubber band that sort of work together to help you sort of see more and more information. And that's so ingrained in us now that to refresh, you're not even thinking about it, you're just doing the rubber band action, right? So I think there are a lot of these really small interactions that make you go, huh, like I didn't even realize I was doing that and I did
Okay.
it, right?
Okay.
The interactions of where people know me and are recommending things based on my usage, things that
Hmm.
I find relevant, I think is really important. Um, when I look at experiences, I'll go ahead and name a company. I think my Airbnb experience was truly amazing. And when I'm talking about that Airbnb experience, I'm not talking about just interaction or just visuals, right?
Hmm.
To give the confidence of somebody like me who loves vacation is about luxury for me.
Correct.
It's not about trying to rough it out. Like I love luxurious vacations.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm trying to create that experience for me and my family of going to a different country, a country that I don't know a lot about, but I want to go explore. Um, how Airbnb convinced a person like me who would just go to the same exact hotels because I knew their brand and knew their experience to being open to rent somebody's home for a period of time and to actually be in a place where that person was welcoming me to their home and to their country, I think is just something incredible. So when we actually a family vacation that we took to Italy, we did Rome and Florence through our regular way of booking our travel. But with Venice, we went ahead and did Airbnb just to try it on for size. And it was just such an amazing experience where I got to live where tourists don't live. And the owner of the house actually met us, gave us a list of recommendations. We got to try the restaurants that locals do. It was almost like visiting family. And I
Wow.
think that's an incredible experience to
Okay.
have. And to use technology to connect people and make such large decisions about their
Yep.
vacation
Yep.
and to change my behavior, I think is quite incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, Airbnb is wow. That's a very very good example. I'm sure if you've had experience of Airbnb, you'll know exactly what Deepa is talking about. So,
Yeah, but the
uh,
fact that we took that on as a challenge and
yep,
changed the
yep,
way we think about,
yep,
staying and
yep.
experiencing a place, I think that's what's incredible.
I really hope. I mean, this COVID doesn't stop the growth, like the trajectory which Airbnb was on, because it opened up so many new places, so many new
Yeah,
experiences for so many new people, and like incredible income opportunities for a lot of locals. So,
absolutely.
yep,
Absolutely. And what a way to see a new place and discover. What a
exactly.
new wonderful way to travel.
Exactly, like as you put it in one line, right? It was almost as I was visiting family. That's
Yeah.
that pretty much summarizes everything. So great. So my last question for today is this: what is that one milestone which you're currently chasing? It's really interesting. I actually I'm looking forward to your answer for this because you're a designer and milestone is such a data and number sort of question. So let's see
It
what you
is.
have to say for this.
It is, but I want to say, being a good entrepreneur is not just, working the right side of your brain, but also your left, right? And I think that the two in combination is where innovation always lies. So, yes, we're maybe a little more right brain dominant, but you need that balance of left brain. Remember, I was an engineer, so I do have that left brain as well.
Of course, of course.
I mean, I'm just stereotyping, but the I think it's important to have clear goals. I mean, I have the responsibility of the company, not just myself. So I do have to have goals for the company. We do have several types of goals and outcomes. We, as a team, think about the year that was and we look at what do we want to do in the year that will come. This year, our focus was to get more global customers. We started on that path last year, and this year it's already served us well with a few new global customers that are on in our kitty in the work that we're doing. The reason for global customers was one, to understand different cultures and understand the work that's relevant to the globe versus just a country or a city or a state. It's also to have the opportunity to interact with people from different cultures. And so, it was wonderful last year to be able to go to Spain, to be able to do it in Australia, to be able to do it in multiple places in Europe, Canada, US. I personally don't like traveling on business, but my team loves it, and get those cultural experiences. So global companies was a milestone for this year, that we wanted to have more global, work that we do that's relevant globally. Um, there are things that we want, and the team and what we want makes a huge difference. It's just not what I want, right? Impact, creating impact was really important to us. We sought after the work with World Bank to help in terms of get projects that make a difference to the bottom of the pyramid in communities that we live in. This was something that the team desired, global work and more impactful work. And we're well on our way, to do better on both those outcomes. So what employees care about, really important. That's the first thing. The second one is financially, we want to be doing better. And so year over year growth is really important to me. And that growth is important so we can hire better people, we can pay people better, and we can afford to do the things that we couldn't do when we didn't have enough money. So that financially, year on year, what is our growth? And I keep my eye not on turnover, I keep my eye on profit, because I want us to create differentiated services that people are willing to pay more for. And that goes in line with our vision of being more boutique. So we want to keep up working on things that are more differentiated, that can demand premium pricing, versus like a Coke dispenser model where you're trying to do a lot of it for a little bit of a upside. So that's a financial goal that we have. And we have the client goal itself of want to improve our NPS. We want to get repeat work from customers. We want to get our customers telling others about us. So those are the three things we look at: the employees, our clients, and financial.
Okay, understood. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, this was really, really interesting interview for me, especially interviewing
Thank
someone
you. It
who
was
builds
fun.
experiences. And yeah, guys, do check out pensardesign.com. Especially check out their tools section. It's really interesting.
Thank you.
That was a surprising thing to see on the website. But yeah, they have a very nice tool section. So thanks a lot, Deepa, for the interview. Uh,
My pleasure. It was
any
fun chatting with you and having an informal discussion. And I just want to say the reason we have the tools is a design thinker isn't as good as their tools, right? Tools are a dime a dozen. So please use all the tools that you can get, but be a great
Absolutely.
design thinker. And that's why we share that rather generously.
Oh, okay. That's a very
Yeah.
nice way to think about it. Thanks a lot, Deepa. Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank
much
you,
for joining
Nikhil.
us.